Prophecy foretells that all of the Primarchs will return with some exceptions. But how do we know when they're going to return? Is there any indication Game Workshop has given to anything like that? Or are we just running by the seat of our pants? Because it sometimes feels like that. But the reality is, Games Workshop may have actually dropped the exact Primarch list with a few minor exceptions and given us a lore reason for why they're returning when they're returning. So today we're going to talk about the Primarch prophecies. There's one big one and one small one that I actually haven't seen on the internet a lot, which surprises me. But it's a lot of fun and it's a lot of details. So let's dive into it and talk about the coming Primarchs. So as many of you guys may know, I've been doing Warhammer lore and reading 40K books and playing the tabletop for roughly about 5 years now. And it's been a lot of fun to learn and deep dive all of this stuff, especially as an author. It's really given me a lot of inspiration and drive to write deeper lore and create even better things. So when I saw a video by Chapter Master Valrock on this subject, I'll pop up a tag right here so you guys can go check out his video. He talks about the prophecy from Ashes of Prospero, a Space Wolves prophecy given by a librarian of the Space Wolves, or I should say a rune priest of the Space Wolves, that foretells the coming of a lot of the Primarchs. But it doesn't foretell all of them. And to be fair, there's a prophecy for most of them, but not all of them. So first, let's start with reading the actual prophecy from Ashes of Prospero, and then we'll talk about what that tells us. But there's also one other prophecy that everyone seems to be overlooking. And we'll talk about that as we get to it. So I'll read out the Ashes of Prophecy quote, but I'll put it here on the screen so you guys can read it too, just in case I screw something up or I misread something. It does happen. There are stirrings, tempests through which I can't even see. Even so, I saw a sleeper entombed in a rock, and a white storm that rode upon a chariot of lightning. A shadow rises to call the All-Father's messengers, a darkness that strikes from within. The benighted one turns their supernatural gaze upon our world. The Eater of Worlds, the Corpse King, and the misbegotten child move once more. The Cyclopean fiend we've already seen. Even the Golden One has broken his gaze from the Imperium again. I felt its glare like a fire in my soul, but nothing pertaining to the sons of Fenris. Though the 13th Legion has come back, and the eye has opened, I saw nothing of Leman Russ. So this has been the baseline that a lot of people have used for the orders the Primarchs are coming back. And so far, it's been correct. Every single one of the mentioned Primarchs here has returned in that order, including both Traitor and Loyalist. So let's talk about some of those returns and what it looks like for all of the rest of the Primarchs. So to start this out, let's talk about the Loyalists, because they were mentioned first in the prophecy, and then we'll talk about the Traitors as well. So one important note for this prophecy is this takes place after Cadia, which means Gilman has already returned, which is why he's not mentioned in this prophecy. But the first one you see is, I saw a sleeper entombed in the rock. This one is a pretty obvious one. It's a direct reference to the lion. And so far, we've seen those two return pretty heavily. We have seen some hints and rumors that a couple other Primarchs may return sooner than this next one, but technically one's perpetual, so he may or may not even be dead. He's probably just off somewhere doing something. And from the rumors I've heard lately, he's going to be the next one to return, but he wouldn't be mentioned here because of his perpetual status, because he's already back and he's just somewhere gathering his strength or building an armada or doing something Vulcan does. So he's likely already there. Dorn is the other one that a lot of people have confusion about. There's a lot of theories about where he's at, but there has been zero mention of any hint or story or any type of prophecy about when he'll come back or where he's at. A lot of people actually think he's not even dead. He just went off to go do something and is maybe either entombed in a dreadnought or has joined the Custodes in order to step away from his role and let the galaxy do what the galaxy is going to do. I struggle with that one a little bit, especially with the War of the Beast and everything that happened there. It's hard to believe that Dorn would just let it happen unless he couldn't do anything about it. So we'll see. I'm curious to see how they bring Dorn back. He's the one Primarch that they really have said nothing about. But beyond those, the third Primarch mentioned in the prophecy is a white storm that rode upon a chariot of lightning. This one I'm super excited about. I'm a White Scars player, so any mention of the Khan is blatantly obvious and stands out to me like a neon sign, which means he will be the third of the prophesied return Primarchs. Like I said, there's a pretty good chance Vulcan will come first, just because he's an easy one to return. You literally just write a book with Vulcan Heston, finding all of the artifacts of Vulcan, which leads him to Vulcan's Forge somewhere, where he's able to fully restore the Primarch and bring him back. So I have a feeling Vulcan will come first, but in this order, the Khan is next. And finally is the one that I think a lot of people miss, and that's Corax. Corax actually has 2 full sentences in his prophecy. It says, "A shadow rises to call the Allfather's messengers, a darkness that strikes from within." So a shadow rises and a darkness that strikes from within are blatant references to Corax. We know he went into the Eye of Terror to try and kill his brothers, or at least that's what people believe. I suspect Corax is up to more than that. And that's something we see pretty regularly throughout a lot of the Raven Guard stories, is that especially Shrike is communicating with somebody through the warp. And it almost seems like he's taking orders from him. That makes me think that Corax is not only in the Eye of Terror, he's actually actively communicating intel back to the Raven Guard in order to filter it, disseminate it into the Imperium, and help protect the Imperium at all costs. It's something that I found really fascinating, but not only that, there's a quote from Leman Russ in the book Corax, late in the Horus Heresy, that hints at something else that Corax is doing. So let's read that next. It'll both reference when Leman Russ will return, but a little bit more of what Corax is up to as well. This is in one of the final battles of the Horus Heresy prior to the Siege of Terra itself, and Russ is basically on his deathbed. He's been completely and utterly beat up and destroyed by 4 separate legions of the Traitors attacking just his Space Wolves. And when Corax arrives to save him, this is what Leman Russ tells him while semi-comatose. He says, "Death, at your call I shall return," whispered Russ. He sat up suddenly and grasped the gorget of Corax's armor. There was madness in the Wolf King's eyes. "The wolf time. I hear the snarls of the beast." He lapsed into a wordless snarls and grunts before going comatose. So this paired with the Space Wolves story makes me wonder, is Corax actually more involved in bringing these Primarchs back than we're getting led onto? Is he not only a spy and a saboteur against chaos, could he also be using the warp to his advantage to find ways to go wake his brothers up? Could he have been involved with the Incarn and guiding Yvraine to Guilliman? Could he have communicated with the Null Realm and aided the Watchers in the Dark to find and bring the Lion back? Could he also be guiding some of the Salamanders to go rescue their father? Or guiding people through the webway so that the Khan can be found and brought back from his purge and crusade against the Drukhari? How heavily is he involved here? Because between both the Ashes of Prospero quote and the Leman Russ quote, it sounds like the real person pulling the strings in the background may actually be Corax. Corax may be the person watching what's going on with the Traitors and saying, okay, this is getting bad. We need to move. We need to try and prevent this. While I can't stop the destruction of Cadia, we can help raise up the Primarchs again to stand against their brothers and actively prevent the Chaos victory. So let me know in the comments below, is this something you guys are interested in? Is this something that you guys may think is interesting, or do you have your own opinions? I would love to hear from you guys and see what you guys think. But next, let's talk about the Traitors and what it's going to look like for them. Now that we've talked a little bit about the core returning Primarchs, like we mentioned, Dorn doesn't really have anything that ever says when or where he's going to return. I have a feeling he's just going to show up. That's just kind of a Dorn thing to do, is he's been there the whole time. I don't really like it, but having him be in some bastion somewhere, setting up a contingency plan, is a very Dorn thing. Perhaps he's dead. I don't know, but I suspect he's probably off fortifying some world somewhere to serve as a backup so that if Terra ever does get sieged again, he can fix it and he can protect it. There is a decent chance that he's also gone to the Custodian Guard, but I don't think so. It seems a little weird that he wouldn't have intervened in the War of the Beast if he was there. So that one's pure speculation. There is zero context to actually back that up. But that leaves Sanguinius and Ferris. I kind of hope they leave them dead. It would kind of invalidate the entire Horus Heresy if they manage to come back. There are rumors that Ferris is leading Legion of the Damned. I might be okay with that one. That might be justifiable. And Sanguinius, the remnants of his soul is the Sanguinor. Both of those, sure, okay. As long as we don't give them full Primarch level abilities, I'm okay with it. Or if we never actually confirm if Ferris is the one in charge of the Legion of the Damned, I'm okay with that too. So that gives us a little bit more context into the Loyalist Primarchs. Next, let's talk about the prophecies that came forward with the actual Traitor Primarchs and what we're looking at with them. So this prophecy does a really good job of telling us the order of the returning Chaos Primarchs as well. And so far, we're actually 4 for 4 on this order. This is why this prophecy has a lot more weight lately, is because we've gone in that exact order, and the hinted rumors of the next Primarch to come is actually the 5th one on this list as well. So first off, we have the Cyclopean Fiend, which is Magnus. In this story, he has just returned and has destroyed Fenris pretty heavily and was eventually pushed back, but at a great cost. So he's the one who triggers this entire prophecy to be searched out by the Rune Priests of the Space Wolves. Next, it mentions the Eater of Worlds, which is obviously Angron, followed by the Corpse King, which is Mortarion, and then finally the Misbegotten Child, which is Fulgrim. They drop all 4 of those in order, and that's actually been their release order, so it's been kind of cool to see that. But he also drops a 5th one, which is the rumors to be the next Chaos Primarch, who will kind of take the lead over the Black Legion stuff. And that is, even the Golden One has broken his gaze from the Imperium again. The Golden One is obviously Lorgar. Lorgar Aurelian, or the Golden One, is currently in the warp and is striving to grow his power there. He's become a demon Primarch as well. So bringing him to the tabletop would be a really interesting one to counteract a lot of what we've got going on with the Loyalist Primarchs. We do currently have less Loyalist Primarchs than we do Traitor Primarchs, but bringing Lorgar back would be a great way to kind of round things out and bring back Corax. Corax has long blamed Lorgar for causing this entire problem and causing the schism that led to the Horus Heresy. So having Lorgar emerge and bringing Corax out to finish the job would be a really, really interesting story. On top of that, we do have Perturabo, who hasn't really had anything mentioned, but with everything going on with Vashtor, he may be an easy bring out as well, because I have a feeling those two are working together. It seems like a pretty obvious combo. And giving us a story where Demon Perturabo is working with Vashtor seems like a pretty easy next step. And it would be fun to bring him out to the tabletop and see a tech demon. And honestly, that would be the point where I'd probably get more involved in Chaos Space Marines and look at building an Iron Warriors Space Marine Legion. Because he's honestly one of my favorite Primarchs. He has a lot of flaws and makes a lot of stupid mistakes, but he actually holds his own pretty well. And he's pretty relatable because he's that one sane guy in the room who just can't seem to get a break. And he was pretty pushed off by a lot of the other Primarchs and the Emperor, and his sons were treated pretty horribly throughout the entire thing, leading to his kind of inevitable choice, where the only person who actually treated him well invited him to the team, and he came. And it's kind of similar to Magnus's story as well. Those two are, in my opinion, the two most relatable of the Traitor Primarchs, which is why I do own a Thousand Suns army. And if I do ever get another Chaos Space Marines army, it will be Iron Warriors themed. So that leaves 3 Primarchs. 2 are questionably dead, and 1 is definitely dead. The definitely dead is obviously Horus, and because of he was killed by the Emperor's sword, he will never be back. He's kind of replaced by Abaddon in that proxy role, so we'll leave that there. Next, if we want to keep the numbers balanced between the Traitors and the Loyalists, we need at least one of these 2 to actually be dead. I think Kurz is going to be the one who's actually dead. He seems like while he would be fun to play on the tabletop, he doesn't have a good relationship with his sons, and the rest of the Night Lords don't seem like they'd actually be improved by having him on the tabletop because he'd be running a lone operative with 0 buffs. So I think they're going to leave Kurz as dead because it just doesn't benefit the tabletop at all. I think the Primarch that they're going to bring back is they are going to kill off Alpharius and leave him dead, but Omegon is not. So Omegon will take up the role as the Primarch of the Alpha Legion and take up his brother's trident to lead the Alpha Legions back into the fight. And I suspect that's where the balance is going to be. You're going to have Kurz is definitely dead, Horus is definitely dead, and the rest are deployed as well. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Is this a good summary? Did I miss anything? I'm sure I did. And what do you guys think about the release order and the new models that are coming out? I'd love to hear from you guys, and I'll see you guys next time.